Thank you very much for joining us today. I'm delighted to be joined by Kush Birdi from Birdi and Company to talk to us a little bit about the experience of running a small independent law firm. Kush, thank you very much indeed for joining us. For the benefit of our viewers, tell me a little bit about the firm. Why was it formed? What's your background? What's got us here?
Amazing. Thanks so much. It's great to be here, and really grateful for the opportunity, and I hope there's some value that can be brought today. So I'm managing partner, co-founder of Birdi & Co. We set up just over 3 years ago now, and I often used to get a little bit frustrated at old firms with kind of old practices and processes and maybe differences in ways that we looked at things. And I wanted to really just create kind of like my own entity, really, and demonstrate to the legal sector, really, that we can do things a little bit differently, and legal practice doesn't always have to be about the old ways of doing things. So we're very much trying to bring like a modern way of delivering legal services. Sometimes we don't even look at it as delivering legal services, but that might be another topic maybe later in the webinar. So we basically serve businesses across the country in multiple different areas. Most of what we do is like corporate law work and commercial work and mergers and acquisitions across a range of sectors. And that has literally developed quite a lot at a fast pace since we set up the firm, which is amazing. But we also do other practice areas as well, such as commercial property. We do some employment law, dispute resolution as well. So yeah, I think that we do, for a small firm, we have like broad expertise, but a lot of that does kind of overlap as well in terms of our full business services offering. And I think that the clients that we work with, we've got some excellent clients that we've now built up over the last 3 years, and we love working with those clients through their business life cycle. And that's what we're about. We're about helping our clients achieve their dreams, not just as businesses, I mean individuals. So I think that's really interesting topic that I do love talking about, and which underpins a lot of what we do at Birdi & Co.
Interesting. Well, so I'm really intrigued. You cover so many practice areas. How many lawyers do you have working for you?
There's only 7 of us in the whole firm. So we have effectively a core team, a small cluster team that does a lot of our main practice areas, such as the commercial, corporate, and the commercial property work. So those can either be like standalone client matters that we deal with, or a lot of the time it can actually be all clustered together into one transaction or series of transactions. And we've got quite slick operations in terms of how we deliver that service, which is, I would say, our bread and butter stuff. The ancillary work either flows from our core areas, or we do get standalone work that we do take on, where maybe 1 or 2 of us in the firm will service. So yeah, it's very interesting that we are diverse as a firm in terms of practice area, but we don't do everything. For example, we don't do residential conveyancing, we don't do family or private client. So maybe those are all things for the future. Who knows?
So why did you make the decision to be a more multi-service firm? Why not specialize in your personal area of expertise and really zero in on that? It's relatively unusual for a small firm to cover such a wide breadth.
It's a good question. I think that in terms of my practice areas and my expertise, the services that we offer reflect my expertise. So, for example, early on in my career and when I was training, I did a lot of commercial litigation work. And I wasn't actually in anything like M&A. I'd never done M&A until I was like 2 years PQE, I think, or maybe 1 year PQE. And that's most of what we do now. So it's quite interesting that over time, I think even at the time, I was conscious of the fact that it would be great to have, number of feathers in my cap, so to speak, I guess. And I think that that's just really helped us now to be able to deliver that service. That doesn't mean that it's all in the same proportions, because it's not. We don't do employment work every day, for example, but we do it as, ancillary work to our main area. So it's quite good to have that offering. And I think as a firm, it is important to be able to to truly serve a client. Yes, okay, we don't do everything, that's fine, but we do want to work with our clients through their business life cycle and make that difference rather than just sort of like the one-off transaction, I suppose. So it's a really, really good question, but I really do like the fact that we are diverse as experts as we are, and that's going to help us as we hopefully grow to expand those areas out, which is the goal.
And do you think that that's the added advantage to your business development, to be able to have that breadth rather than a singular depth?
I think it's definitely an advantage in terms of maybe generating additional work, or maybe not at the client acquisition phase, but potentially if we need to provide a more comprehensive service, you could call it upselling, but really it's providing a more comprehensive service for the client, and just for future instruction. So that has been useful, yeah. And also for retention, I would say, client retention as well.
And as you have the dream to build out the practice areas, we've got our bellwether survey that has told us quite clearly that firms that are looking to grow like yours are generally looking to do it organically by bringing in new staff, by up-training existing staff, rather than doing a merger or an acquisition of another similarly sized small law firm, or indeed being absorbed into a big one. Where do you sit on that?
It's a really interesting point. I saw that email come through actually the other day, and I've got it flagged currently. But yeah, it's really interesting. Obviously, I do believe that organic growth is always going to be preferable, because it means you can put your own stamp on things, you can train teams in the way that you would like to train them, and from maybe like earlier on in the career through a kind of a career pathway, and that's always going to be preferable. But I do think that there are advantages of an M&A pathway as well. For example, acquiring other firms and teams. So comes with that would be teams, is also other talent, which maybe you would not necessarily have access to straight away, or you would not have the continuity of people being involved amongst that team and the resource and the service that they're providing. So bringing that in can have an immediate added advantage. So when you think of it that way, you can think that growth can be maybe quicker. That doesn't mean quicker is better at all. Doesn't follow that it's better. So yeah, I'm in favor of both, and I think an element of both is required. But there's also things you can learn from other firms. You bring in another law firm, integrate it into how you currently work, and you can actually maybe learn so many things about processes and systems, and even marketing procedures that you don't know about, and that you haven't really integrated into your own firm. That can be an advantage as well.
Quite. And one of the things that's always said about a merger is, when you've got a culture, a merger with another firm, culture there can be a friction then with two cultures merging. And one of the things that's really clear from Birdi and Company is that you've got a really rich set of values and a really rich culture. And it's just reading your website, you've got a tone of voice, you've got a style that seems pretty special to you and your firm. Is that right? Is it just marketing spin, or is that something that is specialist to what you're trying to create?
It's not just marketing spin. I mean, obviously that's one way to look at it, which is absolutely fine, and ultimately it is a form of marketing. That is what it is. But I think that when we embarked upon the task of really defining what we stand for, what we're doing, and what we're actually doing here, there's so many law firms now, and our team can work for any of those law firms that they want. So it's really important to me for the team to understand, and for me to understand and remind myself, what are we doing here? Why are you part of Birdi & Co. as opposed to another firm? And that's not about marketing. I mean, it is about marketing, but it's not just about marketing. It's about actually being in it together and actually understanding that we're here to do more than go to work, for example. We're here to actually fulfill a purpose. We're here for some purpose, and that's what we're here to do, which is probably maybe something you can't get anywhere else, or may not get somewhere else. And I think it's really important for the team to understand that. It's important for me to know that we're all going on this journey together, like a voyage of some kind. And I think really going back and defining that, was a really good exercise for us. And yes, of course, the branding piece and the marketing piece is part of that, but it does go beyond it as well.
I'm really intrigued. We'll dig into that in a moment, but there's one burning question that I've always wanted to ask. Right? Why should your clients come to a small independent firm like yours rather than going to a big network firm or to a big corporate giant firm? Well, what is the magic that you bring that differentiates and adds the extra value to the client?
Well, I think that there's a few things to that I would say. I would firstly say that we probably wouldn't be fit for every client. So obviously you then have to look at, well, what are clients looking for? I think we do tend to get a lot of work from clients that have previously been at larger firms, and perhaps they've not quite been satisfied with communication levels, response times, insight into the clients, what they're trying to achieve. So like that commercial awareness, really, I suppose, and just that feeling of comfort of knowing what's going on. I think that's a big thing. If you, and I think we see it in a lot of law firms, but I think larger the size of the law firm, the harder it is to maintain those kinds of attitudes. So you're coming up to the weekend, and the client's, it's close of business Friday. The client's not really sure what's going on in their matter, and they don't hear from anyone. But, I think when you're at a smaller firm, you can be a lot more personal, and you can say, well, okay, it's Friday. Team, it's Friday. Make sure we're updating our clients, etc., on what's going on. Imagine you're going into the weekend not really understanding what's going on with your matter. You don't want to be that person. So let's update our clients. And I think that even other examples could be making sure that clients have a proper pathway of what's going on their case before they're hit with an invoice. You have like larger firms with accounts departments and all that, and of course we have our own systems, but maybe timing of an invoice, these small little things I find so interesting and so important to the client's journey and the client's experience ultimately, because there's a lot of intangibles that we're looking at here, things you can't really see, but which have a massive effect on how the clients can perceive a service and have and their experience. So I would say that clients who clients like the fact that if they're, in my opinion, if they're working with a firm like us that pay attention to those more intangible kind of areas, it's about peace of mind, to be honest. I always say that, I think, the topic of mental health, etc., is so important across, especially in our sector, in teams, etc. But I always say that within that conversation, without discounting the teams, of course, but our clients also have mental health concerns and issues and experiences they're having. So when we're delivering a service, we're not compromising our own mental health, but we are looking after theirs, if that makes sense. So I rarely see that as part of the discussion, if that makes sense. But I do think it's an important factor, and I think by delivering that kind of experience, I think clients are attracted to that, and smaller firms maybe can look at it in a more personalized way, I suppose.
Do you have an example, perhaps, of where some of these intangibles have made a difference to your clients? That might be putting you on the spot, I appreciate.
I think there probably are lots of examples, to be fair. I can think of.
I love the idea, like the timing of an invoice, right? Such a good point for a small business. That if you know their business well enough, that can really help. I'm sorry, I just interrupted you as you came up with
100%. 100%. I think it's really, really important, and I always do an email to the team. I personally do the email, maybe like 3 or 4 days before the end of our month or our billing cycle, for example, to make sure that's happening. In terms of examples, there must be loads, but I would say that the one example, we do a lot of business sales, for example, and business acquisition. So we've got a client at the moment who's actually become a really good client of ours. We're doing multiple acquisitions for them at the same time. And we understand that how their business is structured and their group companies, the way they're structured. What we did is we called them into a meeting and we said, we want to understand how this. We didn't charge them for it. We said we want to understand why these companies exist, because I think a lot of you could easily just not look at that and sort of say, what was the thinking behind structuring the businesses in this way, just for asking for no reason. And actually, we've now got a really detailed understanding of, well, it was done this way for that, it was done that way for that, and there were some different other commercial and other reasons, which I won't go into, why this is all done. But then there are also more personal reasons as well, and more historic reasons as well. And that's now allowed us to understand exactly why the client's making certain decisions about what companies to use for this or use for that, or why employees are being employed by that company. And I think that rather than it just being, oh, we're acquiring this using this company, or we need to do some employment contracts for this company, we know exactly why and why that's being done. And we can actually say, oh, this must be for this company, right? Rather than having to say which company does it belong to and that kind of stuff. So, I mean, that's just a quick example of kind of the feeling that the client has, knowing that we kind of have that insight is really important, and it creates loyalty, in my opinion. So,
it's proper partnership, right? It's really understanding
it really
their
is.
business.
And it's those things like going that, we call it the extra mile, I suppose, but I think it is slightly different to that. It's just about being enthusiastic about, which is one of our core values, being enthusiastic about the clients, and just what we do.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, and let's take enthusiasm, right? I think one of the things that's so clear as I've been doing my research for talking to you is business development and the work you do around BD. And to have gone from, I think 3 years ago, you said, from 0 clients to now a firm with a headcount of 7, that is a remarkable growth. So what are the challenges that you faced when looking to acquire new clients, and how have you gone about solving those BD challenges?
That's another good question. And I mean, it's not easy, that's for sure. But obviously it's a really important topic. I think that one of the things that we really focused on, I mean, the beauty of it is, before I set up the firm, I was still doing similar activities. So that's a good thing. So I think that anyone who may be looking to set up a firm, or maybe is a partner or wants to become a partner, either in any size of firm, it's important, in my opinion, to think about BD activities and how you're going to improve those skills, as early on as possible, and developing those. So I think that the real work on that actually probably started many years ago. It didn't start when I set up the firm. But in terms of the challenges, obviously when you set up a law firm from scratch with no clients and no staff, then obviously you need to be able to generate work. So that's, I guess, one of the reasons why we did go in broad with the practice areas initially, to be honest. And also, I think it's about just having a strategy, like an actual strategy, on not just relying on word of mouth, not just relying on what referrals are coming in today. You actually have to actively generate traction, attention to your business, social media, for example. But also you need to work on all the different lines of possible BD as in the background. So, for example, we talk about like the website and Google and SEO and how all of that works. That you need to be investing in that all the time. Like, even if you don't think you're going to get work, or you're not targeting work from there, it doesn't matter. The point is, you need to create these, in my opinion, small kind of like assets that are just performing in the background. Publications and events, obviously, that kind of stuff. This kind of stuff. I think it's just about consistency as well. So in terms of challenges, one of the challenges is you do loads of BD, loads of work comes in, then you're busy with work, and then you stop BDing, and then 6 months later you've got no work or less work. So that's a challenge. But I think you have to, if you want to grow, you have to ignore those cycles, and no matter what's happening, you just keep having to do the BD activity.
And how do you balance your time then between BD and actually doing the stuff that brings in the money?
I don't think I have a particularly sophisticated answer to that, to be honest. I think a lot of it is just trying to do your best that you can, to be honest. And sometimes it can be really difficult. We're talking about something that's not easy to do or easy to manage. Everyone will know that's listening. But I do think, if you do want to make sure you are applying yourselves consistently and then struggling with balance, you just have to sometimes take a step back and say, okay, is this investment of time going to be a return? Is it not? Is it more of a gamble? I've done BD activities where I have not had a return on it yet. but I know that I will. I've also engaged in business development activities for over 2 years, consistently, not having any return, but knowing that it's coming, and have actually had recent things convert even after 2 years of effort. So it's all in the consistency and the discipline. Difficult, as I say. How do you do it? You just have to believe. You have to believe and do your best.
Now, you've mentioned a few sort of technical skills, such as the website and Google and search engine analytics, et cetera, search engine optimization. Is that you? Is this new skills that you've developed, or actually do you recognize you're great at one thing, let's get someone else to do it, let's outsource it, let's bring the talent in? How do you actually go about doing that?
Yeah, I don't know anything about SEO. I don't know anything about Google SEO. I know that it's worth it, and I know that it's important, and I know that it builds over time, and I know that it takes time. So we work with an agency who are amazing, and they've worked with us since the very beginning. Since day one, we started on that. And more recently, we've managed to bring in our colleague Elliot, who's been amazing, who's bedded in so well, and currently takes charge of that with the agency. So it's kind of an addition. And I think it's about having the right expertise, trying to develop a vision, communicate that vision, and work with great people. And to be honest, it helps that if you enjoy that.
Yeah,
I do enjoy that. So I love the fact I don't enjoy the idea of being doing all of this by myself, whether it grows to be, or whether it's hugely successful alone. I much prefer it being like success or growth as a team, and with other people growing as well, and celebrating other people's skills and success like we're doing. And I genuinely enjoy that. That actually fulfills me.
yeah. Yeah. So, well, what about things like targets? So, in a big law firm, you would expect, the top level partners and probably senior associates, they're going to have BD targets that they have to hit. What do you do? Do you set yourself a target? Do you set yourself a plan? Do you set your team targets, or do you work a bit differently from that?
Do you mean specifically on business development, or?
I do, yes.
We don't set specific targets as such, but we do. Firstly, we one of our mission statements is to first of all illustrate to the world and the sector that lawyers can be entrepreneurial, because there's a stigma out there that if someone's a lawyer, they can't have a business mind, and they can't be ahead of the game on things like tech and other things and innovation. And I don't think that that's true. I think that a lot of people that I see and work with are very entrepreneurial. So we want to basically encourage people to be entrepreneurial and thinking of these creative ideas. So I think we don't necessarily have direct targets. We do have an incentive program that has marketing BD as part of that. But I would say that I don't think that that's necessarily a biggest driver of the activity that our teams engage in on the BD side. I think it's more about the being around each other and the influence of each other and working towards this bigger goal of why we're here, and trying to prove it to everyone and to ourselves that we all don't have, we can be entrepreneurial, we can think of things differently, we can come up with more innovative ideas. And I think that BD looks differently for everyone as well. I've learned that over time, to be honest with you, and that's a challenge as well. Expectations of others, what you might do yourself is not necessarily what everyone else does or what everyone else is interested in. So it's really about trying to gauge what motivates people, I suppose. Some people are motivated by the work, some people are motivated by going out and about and getting work, some people are not, some people are motivated by statistics. And I think if you can tap into that somehow, you can then really tailor what your team are doing on an individual basis, and sort of say, I'd love it if you can do this, would you be interested? Oh yeah, I'd love that. But it might be different for everyone, and that's a challenge, but that's also enjoyable, because it's also, again, intangible in a way. And it's that areas that you can't see. Oh, my lights have gone off. If you could just give me a second.
Small businesses, eh? Yeah.
Sorry, I'll be 1 minute. Thank you. So I think it's those intangible areas that are really interesting, and if you can explore those, there's a lot of success to be had, in my opinion.
That's really so. Talking of knowing people, I understand that your wife is co-owner with you of the business. How do you find running this as a family business? I know it's hard enough in my own home deciding who has to go and deal with the baby at 2 o'clock in the morning when she wakes up screaming. How do you manage this challenge of running a family business, a really high stakes business dealing with other people's issues, with your wife?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's a good question. I think first of all, I don't think it would work for everybody. I think that's obviously the case. We actually met at work, working in the same department. So I suppose that would have helped in the sense that we've had to work together before in a legal setting, before it was Birdi and Co. And I think that, well, why not? Why not do it? I think, what we could be part of separate firms, working at separate firms or not working together, or we could be doing it together on the same journey, with the level of trust which perhaps is maybe unmatched in terms of unmarried business partners, let's say. And is it easy? No, it's not easy. But would I want it to be easy? I don't know. Is anything easy? Something is always going to be difficult. I could go into business with an independent person. There's challenges there. And I think that, I don't know how we manage it. We just do. We just get through it. We're a good team, and sometimes it's harder than other times. Whether it's workloads, for example, right now it's a really busy time, really busy time. So it is challenging. But I think that, I don't really have an answer. It's just we're in it together and we enjoy it, and that's part of we're on a mission together, and that's also really fulfilling.
And do you ever switch off though, right? Does it mean that you bring work home? Does it mean that you're always talking about the firm, always talking about the work you're doing and your clients? How do you get that separation, if indeed that's what you're after?
We do bring work home. Yeah, we do. And we do talk about the business and the firm and our clients at home and at work. It can be difficult sometimes to separate those lines, but I think it's almost being realistic and saying, we are business owners, first of all. So whether it was a law firm or another firm, it's going to be very similar. And, part of that is, owning any business or running any business is not easy. So it's only natural there's going to be an element of, okay, we're doing this at home. I think that it's just about trying to take every day as it comes. It's almost like if, maybe being disciplined with each other, respecting each other. If someone has a certain boundary or they want to have some time to themselves or something, because I need time to myself. Lena, my wife, will definitely need time to herself as well. And putting a little toddler in the mix as well isn't easy. So there's nothing really to kind of mask or anything. We do take work home, and so it's just about trying to do our best, and that's all we're trying to do, as everybody is.
Yeah, and I previously worked in a small business as commercial director, and I found one of the hardest things was the ability to switch off. So we've just gone through holiday season. Yeah, both you and your wife going off, disappearing on holiday. How do you deal with that always on pressure? Right? That's 2 of you out of a firm of 7. That's a very large percentage of the firm that's disappearing.
Yeah.
How does the rest of the firm deal with that? How do you help them? How do you support them and set them up so that they don't burn out during your times flying away having fun?
That's difficult as well. Lots of challenges there. But I think we definitely plan quite far in advance, whether it's, what clients are we taking on, what are we not taking on. We talk a lot to the team and sort of saying, how's your workloads? Obviously, this is when we're going away, etc. This is what we will be doing. This is what we won't be doing, or one of us, or whatever. We try not to do much work on holiday. We try to check in, but we will always be there. So me personally, anyway, I'll always be there for the team. So if anyone does need anything, I will be there, because that is my assurance to the team, so that they know that they're okay. I think that is what it is. But like now, for example, we are preparing now for, I know we spoke just before, but we are preparing all of that kind of stuff now. So it's just about being clear with the team, who's responsible for what, what can colleagues, if there's heightened responsibilities whilst we're away, what are the boundaries for the colleagues as well, in terms of what can they be expected to do, and or what should you not expect them to do. And I think it's just about making sure that everyone's really, really clear how things dealt with post inquiries. We will do that. We will do I'll do a circular email to the team and say, this is kind of the plan. This is my availability. This is when I'm not available, and just being really clear with the team. And then I'll normally sit down with each one of them and individually and just say, is there anything you need? All these kinds of things, and just try to be as courteous as possible and understanding that the team will have heightened responsibilities, and making sure that they're on notice of that.
Quite. Well, so it's a huge amount of human capital investment of energy and time you put in. And I'm conscious of the time, but I'd really like to just ask you a little bit about some of the legal processes and the operational challenges that you face with this, because clearly you put a lot of emphasis on the human to human relationship, but actually how, as a resource limited, both presumably in terms of operating capital and in terms of human capital, how do you deal with some of these operational challenges? What are you seeking to do to become more efficient, more effective, more streamlined, utilizing technology, perhaps, as an example?
Yeah. So, I mean, firstly, before you can have and deploy technology within your business, well, you probably can, in certain ways, do it without human capital, but you also do need the human capital to an extent as well. So we brought in last year Charlene, who is our operations manager, who's doing a great job with all of our infrastructure and our operations. So that's helped so much in terms of not only like someone else to be working with on those kind of matters, but to then maybe make sure we are implementing like policies that we need to implement quickly, or updating policies, changing the way we do things to keep up with our growth, I suppose, and things that may not have been covered before. So yeah, it's hard. I mean, technology, I mean, we try and make ourselves as efficient as possible from a technology side. So we have, like, as lots of other firms do, lots of template emails, lots of template forms, but without removing that kind of human to human personalization. So a lot of the back end stuff will be optimized as much as possible. And if we're using, the same documents in client matters, for example, that we're drafting all the time, then we will try and we actually have those coded. So we code those to make sure they can just be generated like a few clicks of a button, with details populated. So we just try and keep an eye on that to make sure we can be as efficient as we can. So we have time.
It strikes me as really interesting, something I've not really thought too much about. That with a headcount of 7, you've already mentioned Charlene and Elliot as 2 non-fee earning support staff that actually enable your fee earning team to be able to do their work, which in a small business, actually, that's quite a large percentage of your resource.
It is
there to back up and help. And that strikes me as quite unusual. Might be wrong, but was that a conscious decision? How have you come to do that?
Definitely conscious decision. We need the support around us in those areas specifically so that we can grow. And I think there's no point me doing all the marketing and BD and the social media and this and that, and then all the operations, etc., without any other minds involved with that, and then having everyone else do the legal work. That doesn't really make sense to me. I think we just need the right people in the right places. And also, when we recruit, we're trying to think about how we're going to grow with those people in place. So it's not kind of, okay, we need this person or that person. It's okay, if we get this next person, then what does the next and the next person look like? So, or member of our team. So we're kind of thinking for the future that if we decide to add more, say like lawyers, for example, or junior members of the team on the fee earning side, then we've actually already got like a slick operation for the ops side and the marketing and BD side. And marketing and BD is so big for us, obviously. So we have to keep that wheel going. That's it felt like a no-brainer to me anyway.
Let's leave with one final question then, just on that side of retention of staff. Because as a small firm, how do you nurture the leadership potential of your staff? Right, you can't say congratulations, you're promoted to lead the team of no, it's exactly the same team that you were already the only member of. How do you nurture and build that leadership side of things to help your team members on that development journey?
Yeah, I think it's a really, really good question. And again, there's a lot of intangibles there that we've been talking about. I think that's become a theme of this now, focus where on the intangibles. But again, the human to human interaction is just massive there. I think that at the end of the day, when we come to work and we're here to earn money or on a purpose or whatever our objective is, at the end of the day, we are all humans and we all have goals, we all have strengths, we all have weaknesses. So I think it's all about engagement. I think making sure that people understand, or making sure that people feel that they're understood and are understood if possible. So, for example, we have all of our team members complete a development plan, and then we review that and we talk about it and we say, okay, well, how can we we discuss it and we say, how can we make sure that what the firm does meets with that, etc. I mean, our trainee solicitor, Roberta, for example, she was the first person to join the firm 3 months after we launched the firm. She joined and she's been with us since. So she started as a paralegal with no previous legal experience. She knows a lot about our processes and how we do things and helped to shape that as well. And I know quite a lot about her interests, etc. So I do try to encourage her to get involved or help her or teach her things that are going to match that. And I think that that's ultimately what creates fulfillment. I think a lot of us, we want fulfillment, right? That's how I see it anyway. So we need to make sure, and we want to make sure everyone is fulfilled at work, and that's only going to increase, retention in my view. And so those development plans are really key, actually, to getting insights on what people's thoughts are and what people's challenges are. We've all got our own personal challenges as well. So it's making sure that we're all just tapping into it, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Kush, thank you so much for lending your time to us today. Thank you for talking through such a diverse range of questions. And I think the thing I've taken away from this is just your laser-focused attention to people and to the humans. And I think it's really lovely to hear. So thank you very much for sharing your time. We really do appreciate it.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.